Welcome to the Strategic Insights Podcast. I'm your moderator, Andrew Makl. Today, I'm lucky enough to be covering a topic with two of probably the most informed people I know in our organization. That topic being our new venture into continuous validation. Before we get into that and what that means for everybody on a SaaS solution and looking at how they're going to support their systems moving forward, before we get into that detail, let's talk with those two experts. Today, I'm joined by Amy Vasquez and Brian Brown. Hello, Amy. Hello, Brian.
Hello, good afternoon.
When I say experts, I want to give a little clarity to your backgrounds before we jump into the product, to the offering, and what it really means to the rest of those listening. Amy, give a little background of yourself with strategic as well as your role in industry and how it, of course, plays into this thing called continuous validation.
Thank you, Andrew. And my name is Amy Vasquez, and I have been working with ERP software for I hate to say how many years, but it's getting close to 30 years. Yes, I did start in high school, but my background started at a medical device manufacturer, and we were in the process of growing very rapidly through acquisition as well as new product introduction. And we needed a computer system that would support us in the long haul and that would support all of our sites. So we took on an adventure to implement an ERP system, and I had the pleasure of working on the project and also having some responsibility on the validation side. It was an overwhelming task. We had binders and binders full of documents and spent a long time going through what the requirements were for the system so that we could test it for its intended use, and had stacks and stacks of test scripts, and it took forever to get the validation done. So after we went live on the system and was supporting it, I met some folks in the consulting world and decided I had so much fun implementing ERP that I really would like to do that as my career. So I joined a consulting firm, and in about 2000, I started consulting in 1999 and started to work on developing a process where we could make validation a little simpler. And from that point on, I've really worked with other members of the team to develop a methodology and a toolkit that would help our customers to be able to implement software and focusing on a risk-based approach and really focusing on the intended use of the software, not testing every little nook and cranny, but really just what the customers were going to be using. And so with that, over the years, we've developed it, worked very closely with Brian, who'll be introducing himself in a moment, to develop this practice of being able to validate, not only validating software that is a single tenant type of environment, but we've now expanded that to a multi-tenant type of environment where the upgrades are going to be pushed out and it's not a kind of a pull. And so many people have panicked over that. We've really come up with a solution that we think is really great. And I'm going to let Brian first introduce himself before we actually get into what that is. But again, I'm just very excited to make sure that our customers have what they need with the software that they're using to be compliant with all of the regulatory bodies that oversee them. And Andrew, I'll turn it back to you then.
No problem. Thank you, Amy, for that background. I think that'll greatly help Brian. As that lovely segue goes, a little bit about yourself.
Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, my name is Brian Brown. I've been with Strategic, started with them in 2019, specializing in validation specifically. So help health science teams, you know, partners get up to speed and make sure they remain compliant through the validation process. Industry background, I've been in medical device a little over 25 plus years, startups as well as Fortune 500 companies, anything from, started off with research development, but the core of my background is in quality leadership roles. So yeah, I've been through years and years of, what's been required, what's needed, and, support clients through that effort.
That's awesome. And so, looking at the fact that I could probably have you both talk about your backgrounds and history and industry and those nuances for hours, it should lend weight to the importance of this topic to the organization as well as this importance of this topic to customers listening. And so, Amy alluded to it. We actually have had a validation practice at Strategic for a very long time, supporting customers that were on solutions that were basically single tenant that were upgraded on anywhere from a 2 to 4 year scale with toolkits and support teams. And now, as the evolution of products have gone, we're moving to a SaaS marketplace, right? So we have enterprise solutions that are basically all SaaS that are going to have impact on daily use, that have 1 to 2 version changes a year. And now it changes the approach a little bit regarding validation. And I think that's how we've basically landed on the continuous validation piece. Amy, would you like to take it from there?
Sure, certainly. So, again, just very excited to be able to expand what we have done for customers over the last 20 plus years, and to help them move into an area where traditionally a lot of our life science customers were a little bit concerned about moving forward into a true SaaS model where those upgrades are rolled out on a periodic basis. And although there's some time frame there to get ready for it, it's more of a push instead of a pull. And so they do need to continually be monitoring what's changing in the software. So doing a risk analysis of those changes, and then also being able to identify if there are areas that are maybe a medium to high risk, that they readily have test cases, test scripts to be able to execute. Maybe sometimes even just doing a performance qualification if very little has changed, very low risk. But the concern with a lot of our customers we speak to is just that overwhelming task of doing that on their own. So, what we've done is we've put together this continuous validation program that really does partner with our customers as well as the software companies to help identify very early on what are those changes, alert our customers to those changes, and then work with them to identify where they might have some higher medium risks, and then actually go ahead and execute those. So being part of a continuous program really allows that security of having somebody there with you, being able to also keep up to date with changes. Right now, the software industry is such a dynamic and fluid arena with the AI coming out, artificial intelligence, that we want our customers to be staying current with software, not sitting on software packages that are 10, 15 years old, but to take advantage of those new enhancements that are coming out. So I think it's really a very smooth transition for our customers to work with us and to move into this new arena where they are able to take advantage, be more effective, be more efficient with their processes, but yet not be tied down with the overwhelming concern of having to go through this validation process on their own, or just really trying to dig into it. Brian, I don't know if you want to actually, since you're the one that really does a lot of the work, if you want to discuss a little bit more on how that actually happens.
Yeah, sure, certainly. Yeah, and just kind of echo what Amy says. The partner response has been, the heavy lifting. It's nice that someone's doing the heavy lifting here. We know this is a necessity. We want to be compliant. It's great that we have, a partner that can get us there. And we have the tried true SIG methodology for, supporting that. So, um, yeah, I mean, other responses that I've heard back is, the validation toolkits are a great resource even for organizations that have, set templates, for lack of a better description, that they must utilize, that will use, or we can tailor that toolkit to fit those requirements internally. So
So as we talk about continuous validation, Brian, this is an area that really helps us take care of those FDA requirements.
yeah, not necessarily though. For a clarification point, it's globally. So there's many requirements throughout, the global economy that drive what an organization must meet to support or sell within that particular area. So, for instance, if you're selling in the EU, you would have to comply with Eurolux Annex 4. Hong Kong has their own separate. Korea has their separate as well. So we, work with the clients globally, and we want to ensure that we support them and partner with them to have a validation package that supports those requirements that are driven whatever region they're in.
Absolutely. So, my mistake on articulating it that way. So, for moving forward, we'll call it just continuous validation. And depending on where you are located globally, it's a validation offering to help support you on your SaaS products for your geo. what was the evolution? Like, it seems like we're getting ahead of a curve that, a year ago no one said there was a curve, and now that everything's moving to SaaS solutions and everybody's doing multiple rollouts, it seems like we're actually leading the pack in a lot of ways to offer these type of solutions to customers.
We're an active partner there, so we are continuously monitoring that along with obviously the client will be monitoring that, but we are building then our support toolkits to ensure that we're ready with any changes they may have. Is that the release
So
notes kick out? We go ahead, Andrew.
So I know it's
Yeah.
a great point. I guess the question I have is, give me an example. What is it going to look like now? So we're used to the planning for the upgrade, Brian, which I think I've unfortunately stuck you on too many of those. But when we look at doing the release notes, what does it look like for a customer in a continuous validation state?
Yeah, so I don't know if I want to get too granular here or not, but yes, so they will receive notification as they sign into the system that hey, 25 currently 2025.1 is going to release. So they're made aware that there are changes that are coming to their system, so they should be actively monitoring that to see what those changes are. We are also on the SIG side doing that exactly that same monitoring. So we're updating our internal deliverable toolkits or supported tools in the background to support those that next push or that next upgrade. So once we reach in contact with that customer, we'll say, hey, these are what we see as an impact. You agree? And then as Amy had mentioned early on, we'll want to risk assess those, work with them to support their risk assessment of those changes. And yeah, if that's something that impacts any GXP related area within their business, then we do appropriate OQ/PQ testing to make sure we test that out, and the system meets that intended business use and still supports them going forward.
Yeah, and I
Mm.
love how you explain it, Brian, because you're mixing the granularity with the high level overview. So my brain gets half of that, which is probably should, right? So I absolutely understand what you're telling me. Is you're taking a lot of risk off the plate of people because you're doing a lot of the legwork that where we used to address those problems once every 2 to 4 years that are coming out twice a year. You're actually giving them a jump start or a cheat sheet, if you will, to all the different things that may impact their business. And then I'm assuming, depending on how they decide to be supported by the continuous validation, they can choose if that's supported directly from the vendor or ourselves, or if that's something they tackle in their validation, their continuous validation steps.
And if I could also jump in, so one of the things that we strategic art is doing, and I think this at a high level that starts the flow of this, as we are keeping our customers up to date. Yes, there's a change; it's just been rolled out, and again, there are multiple different systems that we're working with, not only ERP but quality systems and as well as MES systems. So we get the alert that there is an update coming. We get the release notes, we make our customers aware. So there are some systems where you need to schedule your timing and get your play environment or your testing environment. And so we'll coach our customers on making sure they select the date, get the coaching, and then we go through as a first pass and read the release notes. Of course, the customers always have access to those, but we'll go through with that granularity of looking for anything that is going to be a CGMP or CGXP type of an impact. And then we will roll that information out to our customers, indicating that during this release, something is changing. It will impact these areas. If this is, then we'll take a more granular look with the customer saying, yes, you guys implemented this module. We'll need to look at it and go through that risk assessment with you for your intended use. But we've done that initial review so that we know that, hey, maybe everything in this release is finance related. There may be some upgrades. And again, based on what your implementation is, you might just want to run a PQ or a little bit of a stress test. So there might be different things that they're going to run, but they're well aware of it and they don't have to worry about making sure that they remember to get their environment requested. They don't need to know exactly when they need to do this. We coach them through all of that. So it really is partnership going through this validation. And then also, you asked, Andrew, what is some of the changes going on? The FDA is also asking the manufacturers to push back a little bit more onto their partners and vendors to help them with the validation effort with the computer software assurance program, doing a risk-based approach. And one of the things that I think we're very proud of, we have always done a risk-based approach. And so again, we're scaling down what really needs to be tested to those areas of high risk for each individual person's intended use. So there are some things that we do as a whole where very low risk types of things we've already tested out. And so there isn't a requirement to go and test all of those lower risk things, only the things that are going to be impacted and are medium to high risk with that upgrade that comes out. And some of the systems aren't twice a year, they might be more frequently. And so, again, as we move forward, we are really partnering with our clients and our partners to make sure we're staying on top of all of those changes.
That's a lot to unpack there, and I appreciate you covering it
Yeah.
because I think you just noted the fact that you're noting the fact that basically that the FDA is telling people to share in this lovely responsibility of validation, and it's going to become a requirement, right? So, and the neat part is, like you noted, I think you commented there's multiple solutions that need validation that we can cover. It's not just one ERP. It's not just uh, MES. It's not just WMS. It's not just QMS. It's all the lovely acronyms as we do alphabet soup in regards to if you're running your business off of it and it has a compliance impact and it's a SaaS solution, you should have a continuous validation program in place to help support your organization in these efforts. And I did not realize that they're pushing that down to be shared with partners. So
Yeah.
I'm excited that we're so much farther ahead of the curve than
Yeah.
originally thought with these new shared responsibilities being handed around.
Yeah, and the FDA realizes too with for manufacturers, this has been a overwhelming burden for them to do some of the validation work and really looking at there are more tools out there and for competitive advantage our clients really do need to stay current on software. There's the speed of everything going through is in software is so fast these days, and so you want to be able to stay current and to be able to take advantage of those. We have a younger workforce coming in that is much more used to mobile type of applications and getting information instantaneously. So as you bring in that workforce, you want to make sure too that you're staying current, not only for bringing in that new source of talent, but also to make sure that your company is keeping up pace with your competitors and other industries as well.
Absolutely. I think it's interesting because the last couple meetings that we've been on together, this has been a primary topic for the entire quality team and the desire to get to not only a continuous validation solution, but also the flavors that can go with that. How much of the work is going to be on the responsibility of the customer? How much of the work is going to be on the responsibility of the partner? And then what their long term goal is when managing that. And then we start looking at all the other products that we may or may not be supporting as we look at supporting
Mhm.
them in some type of continuous validation. I see this as being a little bit of the tip of the iceberg as organizations start managing all these different SaaS solutions rather than having this massive technicals team and massive quality team in house until they get to a certain size in their growth model, if you will. Because we know a lot of these life science organizations start very small and expand very quickly, and there's a ton of just effort involved with that, let alone managing just the day to day, the things that we're trying to help them make sure they're staying compliant on. So that these are exciting times for us. As we look at this, and we're going to be coming out with many more things in the continuous validation in the future with customer testimonials, as well as some case studies, and seeing how customers are really evolving and basically checking ourselves. How many are going to be more of a turnkey approach, and how many are just taking the release notes? I guess the question I have for everybody is where do you see it going in the next 12 months as we look at our portfolio of products and the number of things that are SaaS and the number of things that we're going to have to be giving these release notes on? How do you see this team and this product evolving?
As you said, we're adding on multiple ERP systems, MES, multiple quality systems. So our team is going to continue to, be on top of it. We're going to actually, learn from each one that we're doing so that we're able to very quickly assess those release notes. So I see that, as an offering from a continuous validation that's just going to continue to grow. And also, it's not just with upgrades. So, you mentioned a lot of our life science customers start out small. Once they get approval, there's a big explosion of activity and growth that they may need to add on additional modules. So, our program not only covers those upgrades, but also as you are doing business and get to that critical mass where you might need to add in some additional tools. Maybe you weren't doing a warehouse system and all of a sudden now you need a warehouse system, being able to help with adding those additional modules in and getting those validated and ready for acceptance into release in your organization. We can also help with those types of changes.
Mhm.
That's a great point. I think a lot of times when you start off and you forget that when you're adding those modules in your phased growth approach, or if you just go from contract manufacturing to actually internally manufacturing for your product, there's a lot of things that change, and you're basically reduplicating those efforts in those new modules. So, always here to help, always here for the longevity of our customer. Letting Brian a little bit off the hook today. I feel like so. Brian, warning for next time.
Oh, I'm
Um,
fine, yeah.
but if you work with us in the continuous validation piece of our business, I'm sure you're going to be bumping into Amy and Brian again. I'm looking forward to our next one of these that we do, where we bring in a couple of our customers and discuss in a little bit more detail. But please reach out strategic.com to learn more about our continuous validation offering, and you have the chance to speak to either Amy or Brian on how we can better set up your organization to reach these requirements and compliance needs. Thank you for your time, everyone. For more information, just reach out to us at strategic.com.